All right, Alexander, we need to talk about the war between the Trump White House and big tech, specifically Trump and Twitter, even though Trump he really should have handled the big tech problem with censorship a long time ago. We've been saying this for a while now, that Trump has left this simmer and it's come back around and it's bit him in the ass. And he should have handled this censorship issue. And we'll get into the idea of publishing, being a publisher and being a platform. And I'm sure you can recap those thoughts as well.
Absolutely.
But let me just get to why we are where we are right now, with Trump recently sending a tweet which reads like this: Twitter has now shown that everything we have been saying about them and their compatriots is correct. Big action to follow. Now, why is Trump saying that big action is going to follow with Twitter and with all of big tech? Well, that's because Trump sent a tweet about mail-in ballots, and Twitter labeled that tweet as misinformation. And so this obviously completely pissed off Trump. Trump followed that up with these two tweets. Republicans feel that social media platforms totally silence conservative voices. We still strongly regulate or close them down before we can ever allow this to happen. We saw what they attempted to do and failed in 2016. We can't let a more sophisticated version of that happen again. Just like we can't let large-scale mail-in ballots take root in our country. It would be a free-for-all on cheating, forgery, and the theft of ballots. Whoever cheated the most would win. Likewise, social media. Clean up your act now! ! 4 exclamation marks, actually. So that's Trump just sounding off against Twitter and on mail-in ballots. And Alexander, I agree with him on mail-in ballots, by the way. And I agree with him on the fact that the Dems are using the CV crisis to also release a lot of prisoners from jail. You have the mail-in ballots as well. And of course, you have the immigration. All of this is leading to the fact that the Republicans may never win a presidency ever again, electoral college ever again, because all you have to do is flip Texas or Florida and it's game over. And with the mail-in ballots, with letting the prisoners out, and with immigration, you're going to flip those states easily. You're not that far off. So this is a existential political concern for the Republicans. It really is. So anyway, Alexander, Trump is finally going after Twitter. He should have addressed the big tech problem a long time ago, because we feel the pain of censorship and shadow banning and all these things from big tech. We feel it, as do many of our peers on YouTube and other social media platforms feel it as well. Trump should have addressed this a long time ago, but it looks like he's finally getting around to it. Let's see. What do you make of it?
Well, he's getting around to it, but he's left it incredibly late, and an enormous amount of damage has been done. Now, I'm not going to come down one way or the other about this business about the elections. My instinct is entirely that you are right. I think this doesn't look good to me at all, what is being proposed. But who is Twitter? What is Twitter to decide that the president of the United States is propagating a fake story? I mean, who are they to be able to say that? I mean, are they? And I come back to this. This is a point which we made way back. I think we made it very soon after we started our channel. I think it was in 2018, summer of 2018. I said, who are these people? Are they a platform in which they neutrally allow different voices to come out and to say what they think, and to be able to publish their, these voices themselves, self-publish on their platforms their different opinions, and have all of these different opinions, argue things out between each other? Or are they publishers who are providing editorial control over what appears on their platforms? Because you are either one or you are the other. You cannot be both at the same time. Now, what we have seen with Twitter is an extreme example of Twitter of exercising what is an editorial judgment, coming along and saying that what the President of the United States, of all people, is tweeting is, fake news or dubious news or news which we know isn't reliable. That is an editorial decision. That is Twitter exercising a judgment about what the President of the United States says, and in effect saying that what the President of the United States is saying is not true. That is what an editor does. And of course, they've now done it to Donald Trump, but you're absolutely right. They've done it to lots of people. They've done it to a certain extent to us, not very much. Let's be compared to what they've done to other people. We have come off up to now quite lightly. But if you go across social media, and it's not just Twitter, it's been policed incredibly, and it's been getting worse and worse and worse ever since the 2016 election. So firstly, we had all that story about Russian, all the Russian internet trolls and bots and things of that kind, that this is all fake news that was being propagated by the Russians. That was where it all started, if you remember. Only it turned out that wasn't true. And we've had a court case now in which, the Russian troll farm came along and said, where's the evidence for all of this? And none could be, the Justice Department couldn't produce any evidence, so they dropped that. And now we've had all of these various entities and legacy media outlets going around policing the internet, saying who's providing, true news and who's providing fake news and who's reliable and who's not reliable. And you have the internet, the tech giants siding with legacy media on these issues, suppressing independent media, including to a certain extent channels like ours. And as you have pointed out to me on many occasions, we now increasingly see tech media owning legacy, tech giants owning legacy media, so that these two groups are becoming one. And they're using their control of these gateways to the internet basically to promote their own product, which is increasingly legacy media, and to suppress all competition at the same time as they're exercising what are in effect editorial judgments. Now, this, it seems to me, is ripe for legal challenge. I mean, I would have said quite openly that entities that exercise editorial judgments are not neutral platforms and cannot continue to retain the many privileges that come with being neutral platforms, legal privileges that come with neutral platforms. And I would go further still, and I would say, and there is now a very large body of opinion that says this also, given the way in which this is being exercised, both for political purposes and for commercial ones, this is now ripe for antitrust actions, because we're seeing essentially monopoly tech and media providers controlling and policing information on the internet. And I'm sure, though this is not my field, that there are also all kinds of, First Amendment issues and other issues. I know that the argument about these being private entities, I'm skeptical about that for all kinds of reasons, which I'm not going to go into because it's a complicated subject, but I'm skeptical about all those defenses that you hear. I suspect that there are issues around that also. Now, it does need to be cleaned up. It is a good thing that Donald Trump is talking about cleaning it up. He's had 3 years to do it. The Republicans, for most of the time, have been in charge of Congress. And nothing has happened. Nothing has happened. This has been getting worse and worse and worse, as you rightly say, because it is clearly directed at the Republicans. First and foremost, for the Republicans, this is an existential issue. and they've let it get out of control without acting about it. And that is as much Trump as the Republicans in Congress. So they've left it dangerously late again. But hopefully something will now be done, because I agree with Trump. This thing that Twitter has now done crosses, well, I mean, not just one red line, but so many. I mean, it's hard to think. I mean, you're going to start, as I said, acting like that with the president of the United States. I mean, that seems to me unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, look, they're trying to exercise some censorship over Trump's Twitter account. But they have already exercised all kinds of censorship on channels and accounts on Twitter and Facebook that are supportive of Trump. You know, they've been banned, they've been deplatformed, and they've also exercised censorship and deplatforming on other accounts as well, which are not related to Trump or the U.S. elections. For example, Tommy Robinson, Alex Jones, Paul Joseph Watson on Facebook, all kinds of accounts. Absolutely. You know, the Saccad Daily on YouTube got completely demonetized. Red Elephants got demonetized. Louder with Crowder got demonetized. I mean, the amount of censorship that they've been implementing has been going on now for 3 years. And like you said, Alexander, the Republicans and the Trump White House have done absolutely nothing to address the issue. And it's going to hurt them, and it's going to hurt them dearly. Mark my words, if, God forbid, if Trump loses the elections, and I say that because we cannot have a Biden presidency. No. If Trump loses the elections, this is going to be a major reason why.
Absolutely. I completely agree. I mean, can I just say something? I mean, Trump, I mean, the first sign that he shows that he's taking this thing very seriously is when it directly affects him. In the meantime, his supporters across the internet have been increasingly affected by it. And, you know, one doesn't have to agree with all of the people who write these, who say all these things in these channels. I mean, you mentioned various sites and programs, and maybe some of our viewers take issue with it. That's not the point.
And I mentioned programs, Alexander, that aren't related to one political topic. Some of them talk about Trump, some of them talk about immigration, some of them talk about other social issues. But they've all been punished in one way or another.
I mean, the only reason, and I say this quite clearly, is for the only possible justification, if you are a neutral platform, if you're an impartial, neutral platform for acting against content, is if that content breaks the law, if it breaks, to be precise, the criminal law, primarily. None of these people we've been talking about have been accused of doing that. So how can you be a neutral platform and at the same time exercise that kind of editorial control? You are banning things that either you don't like because you don't agree with the opinions that are being expressed, in which case you are suppressing free speech, or you're banning things because you have a political partisan position and you want your side to win, and you're afraid that these people who you're banning might attract other people to take a different position. In which case, again, you are obviously not being a neutral, impartial platform. You are clearly exercising an editorial judgment and a politically partisan editorial judgment. So it's astonishing to me that it has taken this long. And I have to say this, it doesn't speak very well of Donald Trump, that he's only basically woken up to the importance of it when Twitter finally gets round to doing to him that which they have been doing to a far greater extent to so many others.
Yeah, I agree with that. 6 months away from the election, and now you're gonna and now you're talking. You haven't even done anything yet.
No.
Now you're talking about doing something.
Yes.
Okay, better late than never. But once again, you've had 3 years to address what I think is a very simple, open and shut case.
Well, absolutely.
They're publishers.
They're publishers. Exactly.
They're not platforms. They're publishers. It's crystal clear.
Absolutely.
I mean, it is absolutely crystal clear. Let me read you a quote from Jonathan Turley, Alexander, so you can comment on that. And it's related to the fact that they are publishers. Now, this is what Jonathan Turley writes, and it has to do with the person that the person at Twitter who makes these decisions, their quote, head of site integrity. So let me read you what Jonathan Turley says. And now, as Jonathan Turley details below, I'm taking this from Zero Hedge, the latest controversy concerns the person who has said that he is in charge of, quote, developing and enforcing Twitter's rules, end quote. Twitter's head of site integrity, Yoel Roth. Critics have highlighted fairly extreme postings from Roth, calling Trump and his supporters Nazis. I do not agree that the problem is Roth's personal views or postings. The problem is his role and the rules at Twitter. Let me read that last sentence again from Turley. I do not agree that the problem is Roth's personal views or postings. The problem is his role and the rules at Twitter.
Well, Jonathan Turley, who is a professor of law, at George Washington University in Washington, D.C., and a brilliant academic lawyer, he's put it perfectly. Now, I may disagree strongly with all sorts of views that are expressed. I disagree strongly with some of the views of some of the channels you expressed. Who am I to ban people? Who is Twitter to ban people? Mr. Roth is entitled to whatever opinions about Donald Trump he has. He's entitled to express those opinions. What he is doing is he is suppressing opinions of people he doesn't agree with. That is not his job. He has no right to do that. That is not the law, and that is not what Twitter should be doing if it is a platform. If it is a publisher, maybe it has a right to control its content. But if it is a publisher, it is legally responsible for the content that appears upon it. So it becomes, for example, liable in Britain under British defamation law. Think about that. And of course, as a publisher, given the enormous control Twitter, Facebook, you name it, have over the internet content, there are very, very serious issues about monopoly control and abuse of monopoly that would arise from the fact if they were accepted as publishers. So they can't have it both ways. They can't police the internet in this way. If they are platforms, if they want to be publishers, then fine, break them up and make them legally liable for everything that appears on their platforms. If that's what they prefer to be, if they want to be, a kind of, Washington Post that people contribute thing, or perhaps even better, a HuffPost, a sort of glorified HuffPost, that's fine. Mr. Roth, in that case, is entirely entitled to say, I'm not prepared to have somebody like that appear on my platform. But he is not then an impartial platform, and he doesn't come with the protections that an impartial platform has under the law. And can I say again, coming back to Donald Trump, not before time. He's left it dangerously late, very dangerously late. And I'm sorry to say this again, it doesn't speak well for him that he's only really woken up to this when actually something is done to him, which is being done to so many other people all the time. People who may not actually have a great deal of connection to Donald Trump, but who are being mainly punished because they are perceived to be his supporters.
Yeah, his supporters or went against the Russiagate narrative. I mean, going by Twitter's rules and going by Facebook's rules and Google's rules, MSNBC, CNN, Washington Post, New York Times, they should be completely deplatformed or labeled as fake news because they got the 3 years of Russiagate completely wrong.
Well, indeed, absolutely. And I'm glad you bring up Russiagate because, of course, one of the things that really marked you out at one time for threats of deplatforming and, you know, all the rest was if you actually argued against the conventional wisdom propagated by the intelligence community and the deep state and the legacy media about Russiagate. And yet, those entities were all wrong. Yeah. It was independent media, some of it left-wing, by the way. I mean, there were, you know, left-wing people who did not believe in Russiagate, and they got hammered too. So that's what you've got to understand.
A left wing never gets not even remotely close to getting.
I'm not.
Because they have the protection of the moniker of left.
I am not saying
they're always protected there.
I am not saying not to anything like the same extent. But the point is that this is not a campaign against fake news. That's a completely bogus, phony explanation for what it is. This is a political campaign exercised through the abuse these people have of a monopoly position, which they have been allowed to exercise by the law under the pretense that they are impartial platforms, when that is not what they actually are. Now, either they revert to being impartial platforms, or they lose those protections under the law, and they open themselves up, in that case, to antitrust actions and are broken up. You can't have one entity like Facebook controlling the entire content on of the internet in the way that Facebook does, if it is accepted as a publisher and not a platform.
Yeah, let me shift gears a little bit here and give another example of censorship. This one comes in the form of comments being censored on YouTube.
Yeah.
And let me take this once again from Zero Hedge and read you the first couple of sentences. Senator Josh Hawley has demanded that Google answer questions over allegations that it censored YouTube comments critical of the Chinese Communist Party, which the Silicon Valley giant told The Verge was simply a technical error they are working to fix. Hawley rejected the explanation in a Wednesday letter to Google CEO Sundar Pichai, calling it part of a long, disturbing pattern of Google pandering to the CCP in order to curry favor with the Xi regime, and adding that the kowtowing is unacceptable, according to the Washington Times. So here you have an instance of comments that are critical of a government being censored by YouTube. We get this all the time in the comments that people make on our channel are censored all the times. And I get messages of people saying, hey, why are you censoring the comments? And I'm like, I never touch the comments, good or bad. I leave them on. But here you see YouTube, they're interfering in the channel's activity, and they're acting once again as a publisher. In this case, in favor of the Chinese government.
Absolutely, a publisher stroke censor, because that's effectively what they are. They are extending censorship, Chinese censorship rules, to their part of the internet. And I'm going to say this straight away. To my certain knowledge, China is not the only government that does that. Though perhaps it is the most powerful government and the most organized government in doing it. And perhaps that's not surprising. I mean, but again, who are these tech giants to act as, in effect, the external censors of a government like China? And if you believe it's a tech issue, well, I've got a bridge to sell you.
It's not a tech issue, that's for sure.
Of course not. Of course it's not. Of course it's not. I mean, the very fact that they're coming up with those kind of excuses tells you that they know perfectly. It's insulting, and secondly, they know that the practice is completely indefensible.
Yeah. I'll say it again and we'll close it out, Alexander. The Trump White House waited way too long. The Republicans in Congress, this
I
House
know.
and the Senate, they waited way too long.
I know.
to tackle this.
They've been asleep. They've been asleep.
Yeah.
They were asleep.
They're going to pay a dear price.
Absolutely, they were asleep through most of Russiagate. They got all that evidence from all those witnesses telling them, that there wasn't actually no collusion, and they just sat on it and didn't do anything. And they haven't really explained why. And of course, with the internet abuse that we're talking about, which, to be very clear, is as sinister as anything else we've talked about in these programs. I mean, if America loses its ability to have free speech, to have, if you like, the public square, then it ceases to be America again. I mean, it becomes a completely different political entity. I mean, if free speech is central to the whole nature of the American political system, at least as it theoretically exists, and to a large extent has existed up to now. But if the Republicans had acted sooner about all of these things, we would be in a completely different place. They didn't act. They let it all happen. They let Russiagate run on for 3 years, and they haven't really acted at all with respect to the internet issues. I mean, I understand that a couple of months ago, some Republican senators met with the proprietor of Facebook. I'm not going to name him. We all know whom I'm talking about. And there was some sort of gentleman's agreements reached, and we see what's happened. Absolutely nothing, because I mean, that particular gentleman is not going to follow through with those agreements. He never will.
No. And can I just make one quick point on the argument that people also make? I mean, you've addressed it, that people make, well, these are private companies, so they can do whatever they want. I mean, you've addressed that with the whole argument of whether you're a publisher or a platform. That's argument number one. But argument number two, and I always tell people, is that fine, they are a private company, and they've become incredibly successful using the economies of scale of the internet. But they did that through massive, and I mean massive, investment from venture capital. I'm not talking about investment of 2, 3, 4 million. We're talking about investments from venture capital into companies like Google and Facebook and Twitter in the billions. Yes, in the billions they've had in VC money. Let's never forget, Alexander, where that venture capital money comes from. It comes from the limited partners who draw that from pension funds. A big proportion of that is drawn from pension funds of United States citizens.
Exactly.
These companies, yes, they're private, but they're also part of America.
Absolutely.
We should never forget that. Those VCs are making a lot of money, and people like the gentleman at Facebook and the gentleman at Twitter have become fabulously wealthy, but they're making it on the backs of the United States working class. So please don't censor the people that have taken you to the level that you are right now, that have made you those billions. We should never forget where the venture capital money comes from in order to build these massive companies.
Absolutely well said. That's entirely true. I mean, there's even more you could say, actually, of a legal nature. But I think
please, if you can add one or two.
Well, I mean, absolutely.
From a legal nature, and we'll close it out. We'll do a short promo at the end. Close it out.
Absolutely. Alexander. I mean, one specific point I would make is that over and above the fact that where did the money come from, these companies clearly serve a public purpose function. I mean, they clearly do. I mean, you only have to go onto the internet to see that. So, and they're only able to do that because they're allowed to do so through the privileges that they have been granted by the United States. So again, don't tell me that these are simply private companies. They're private companies that are performing a public trust. They're performing a public trust because they've been funded in the way that Alex has so eloquently said, but they're also performing a public trust because of the very nature of the function that they are filling. So they are not just private companies. And I think one day because I am a man of, I still retain hope. I think that if this ever goes to the Supreme Court of the United States, which it might one day do, who knows? And this is all argued out there. I have absolutely no doubt that that would be the decision that the United States Supreme Court would make.
All right.
Partly for the reasons Alex said, partly for the reasons I've said, no doubt for many, many other reasons too.
I agree. All right, Alexander Mercouris, editor-in-chief of Duran, thank you very much. Guys, we've said a lot of risky things to be said here on YouTube, so please support us. Like the channel, share a comment down below, share the video with your friends. That really helps us out a lot. PayPal, Patreon, Subscribestar, please donate to us. That also helps us out a lot. And of course, go to the Duran shop, pick up some merchandise, and also support our friends at Patriotic Legacy, Patriot Beacon 3. They're running a competition. You can get a blue camouflage Patriot Beacon, as well as a tactical pen and a monkey fist ball. When you make a purchase, you're automatically entered into the contest. They ship internationally. This is a great flashlight, a great torch. Alexander, some final quick words, and we'll wrap up a pretty long video, but we said a lot of good stuff.
Absolutely, a long video, because this is obviously something we care and feel very strongly about. But can I just say, coming to the Patriot Beacon, the best torch or flashlight, torch in Britain, flashlight in the US, but it's the same thing. The best torch in the world, absolutely amazing torch, incredibly well made, sturdy, superb quality product. When you just hold it, you know immediately that you are holding a really great quality product. And it's got this extraordinary beam, which lights up huge distances in the darkest conditions. You can see extraordinarily far with it, and it's a beautiful light too, by the way. And you can dim it, as I've just done. You can also flash it, which is really useful if you're on a road and you've got oncoming traffic. People notice you better if you're flashing in that way. And of course, it's got all these other amazing accessories. If you're in an accident in your car, if you've got it in your car, well, you've got a tool there. You can break windscreens, but you can also use it as a hammer if you like. I mean, you can do all kinds of things with this, and you can cut seat belts. It's got the accessory to do that there. If you get lost, as I sometimes do in the dark, especially when I'm walking my dogs, in truth, or in a place where your sat nav isn't working, well, you've got a compass. It's got a magnet, so you can stick it on a metal surface and put it out of the way, and it's incredibly safe there. It's solar powered, so you don't have to mess around with batteries and worry about the batteries running out on you, because provided you keep it in the light, it's always there for you. And of course, it doesn't just have that quality, but you can actually recharge it, because you can recharge your iPad or your phone, your smartphone or your laptop, because it's got a port there. And remember, as it's solar powered, it has the power to do that. And of course, last but not least, if you want to attract attention, if you need to call for help, you can do that very easily, because it's got an alarm. And the way when I do that, my dogs come running. So it's a way of calling my dogs back. They always come rushing when I play that. So it is the best torch in the world. It's got everything you could possibly want or need from a torch. You'll find it. You'll find it, as I said, from our friends at Patriotic Legacy. And Alex has told you about this competition. You cannot be without a torch like this. And just to repeat again what Alex said, it ships internationally. So it doesn't matter where you are, you can still join this competition, and you can still get yourself a Patriot Beacon just like this. The best torch flashlight in the world. And of course, just Patriot Beacon that you can find via the Duran. We also have our own shop with our amazing magic mugs, like the one I have here, which has the coat of arms of the Russian Federation. You can see it there with the double-headed eagle and St. George slaying the dragon of fake news and untruth, which is what we aim to do on the Duran. And as I said, these are, without any question, the best mugs you will find. They're the best mugs in the world. They're strong, light. They keep your tea and coffee warm. They keep your beer and champagne cold. They are amazing mugs. And we don't just have amazing mugs. We have amazing polo shirts like the one I'm wearing at the moment. 100% cotton, incredibly stylish, elegant, and durable. And we also have great t-shirts, also 100% cotton, long sleeved and short sleeved. And we have v-neck shirts, and we have hats, hoodies, and stickers. And we have ebooks all in our shop, ebooks on subjects like Russiagate and Ukrainegate and Brexit and Epstein and the latest problems in the oil market. And I understand that Alex is in the process of refreshing our shop. Also, you'll find amazing things coming there very soon. So support us, support the Duran. As Alex said, we said some rather controversial things on our program, things we really care about and mean. If you believe, if you want to have this quality of analysis which we're providing, we rely on you for your support, and get yourself a Patriot Beacon as well. So Alex will tell you how to do these things.
You'll find the link to the Duran shop down below, theduranshop.com. You'll also find the link to the Patriot Beacon, Patriotic Legacy. You'll find the link for that in the description box down below as well. And also, if you use the code Duran20, you get 20% off the Patriot Beacon flashlight. So Duran20 at checkout. Use that code to get 20%. Alexander Mercouris, thank you very much. Until next time, everybody, take care.